Well, howdy. It's 8:15 in the morning. It's Thursday, October 17th, Friday Eve. It makes the weekend seem closer. And we have your forecast through the weekend and beyond. And we'll start with the watches and warnings across the country today. And they are voluminous. We have a pretty strong low heading down the west coast. Not necessarily the west coast, Intermountain West into the Four Corners. And with that, a lot of winter weather. Ahead of that, some strong southerly winds for the plains, high fire danger, and then we're still dealing with the cold air that pushed into the Midwest and now moving into the Great Lakes and further east with some cold air there. So let's start with the west with all of our winter storm watches and all warnings and stuff. So first of all, you freeze watch for parts of Oregon and Washington and Idaho and into northern California. We do see a red flag warning for parts of California, so wind associated with that storm and kind of on the dry side in California, so high fire danger. And then further to the south in California, it's a wind advisory with a little bit of a freeze warning thrown in there for you too. Freeze warning goes into Nevada and Utah as well, and so do the wind advisories into Nevada and down into Arizona. There's a freeze watch for southeastern Arizona, some of the higher elevations down in the southeastern part of the state. Moving to the northern part of the state, it's what is that? Winter storm watch, or I believe it is. Some of those blues are hard to distinguish, but I think that's what's going on there. It would make sense with the forecast that we're going to show you here. Winter storm warnings for parts of Utah. Freeze watches for parts of Utah, which I think I mentioned. Winter weather advisories for parts of Utah. Up to Idaho, more winter weather advisories. Those go into Montana as well. And then winter storm warnings for parts of Montana. You get into Wyoming, and it's freeze watches and winter weather advisories. And even into Colorado, winter storm watch for the mountains near Durango. Could see some heavy snow here. It's a southerly wind blowing into the plains and warming things up today, but also very dry still and windy, high fire danger here with red flag warnings up. And then into the Great Lakes / Midwest, it's freeze warnings up from Illinois through Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, parts of Missouri, the Appalachians from North Carolina into Virginia. I think parts of West Virginia included, even into Pennsylvania, New York State, a little bit of New Jersey, Connecticut. Some widespread freezing temperatures to end the growing season there. So let's take a look at the upper air pattern. I want to show you what's going on with our low. So if we look up here in the Pacific Northwest, you can see an upper low forming and just moving right down into the Four Corners. So I'm going to go fast and then we'll slow it down a little bit. But so you can see it forming and then boom. So there it is. And this is Saturday. So by Saturday morning, this low dropping into Arizona, just right into the Four Corners. And it's going to spin here for a little bit. So you can see our jet stream is well to the north now and the low gets cut off, centered right over the Four Corners. This is Saturday night around midnight, and this is going to linger into Sunday before it gets kicked out into the plains, and then eventually exits for the Mid-Atlantic, and that would be Wednesday. So again, the next day or two. So as we get into the weekend, that low forms, drops through Nevada, really gets cranking in the Four Corners, sits here for a couple of days, and then gets ejected into the plains and then moves off to the Mid-Atlantic. Now we move further into the future, and we have a big dip coming right here. Some cold air coming by the end of the month. This is the 29th. So Great Lakes, Midwest, look out for some significant cold air, at least briefly, towards the end of the month. But here's our main focus, is this low that's forming, and then it's going to sit over the Four Corners for a couple of days and then gets ejected. So let's see what that does to our forecast as we take a look at the surface now. So that's what's going on above our heads. At the surface, it's a lot of snow for the west. Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, California, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, into northern New Mexico. This is for today. A chance for rain or snow or a mix depending on your elevation all throughout much of the west. Again, ahead of it in the plains, we've got the strong gusty winds out of the south. It's been very dry. It's warming up a little bit. High fire danger here. A little quiet on the East Coast, but a little bit of rain for North Carolina, Virginia, and a few showers for Florida. Your temperature anomalies, as that low forms and drops into the Intermountain West, that's dragging cold air with it. So, 10, 15, 20 degrees below average. Oregon, Northern California, Nevada, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. That's where the coldest stuff is. Still below average for a large part of Texas. I mean, single digits below average, but still cooler than normal. And that gets even cooler as you head into the southeast. And, our cool temperatures in the Midwest, even single digits below average for this time of year, that's going to bring us those hard freezes for tonight. All right, temperature-wise, this is what that looks like. So Texas, with a degree or two below average, you're still in the 70s for most of the state. Into Louisiana, we see more 60s showing up as we get into the southeast, again below average here. Up into the Midwest, low 60s, some 50s for Michigan, certainly for West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, and into the Northeast, temperatures in the 50s for the most part. The cool stuff in the Northwest with widespread 40s and 50s here, even 50s for the Willamette Valley, upper 50s, maybe near 60. And then, still kind of warm for the desert Southwest with temperatures here approaching 80 for Phoenix. Low temperatures for tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning. Look at lots of teens. Oh, is there a fly attacking me? Anyway, lots of teens for the Pacific Northwest and moving into Idaho and Montana and Nevada. So lots of teens and 20s here as that cold air gets dragged south. And then also on the other coast, we have lots of 20s to near 30 for places that we have those freeze warnings in the end to your growing season. In the middle, we've got that high pressure building into the center of the country, and so low temperatures warmer in the 50s from Texas all the way up into Minnesota. Surface for tomorrow looks like this as our low gets its act together and drops into the Intermountain West. A lot of snow for Montana, Wyoming, Idaho. Heavy snow, too, in parts, even into Utah and the mountains near Durango and southwestern Colorado. So this is going to be our main system, and it means business for some people. We're going to see a lot of snow for parts of Montana, Wyoming, and again, Utah, Colorado, even northern Arizona into New Mexico could see quite a bit of snow. For the plains, we're starting to see some of the showers move into the plains. And we even have some severe weather possible with that tomorrow. We're talking eastern New Mexico with our marginal risk for severe weather. So Tucumcari, Fort Sumner, Clovis, Portales, down to Tatum. Not quite down to Carlsbad. Roswell, you're included in this. So that's where the chance for some severe storms will be for tomorrow afternoon. That'll linger into Saturday. We'll show you that here in a little bit. Anomalous temperatures for tomorrow, much below average, moving into the Four Corners. Nevada still, Wyoming, much below average, the west. And then above average for the central and northern plains into the Great Lakes. And still a little bit on the cool side for the southeast. Those highs look like this. 60s to near 70. I guess it's mostly 70s for the southeast. A lot of 70s still for Texas, but some 60s now in West Texas. A lot of 70s in the plains, all the way up to the Canadian border, really. 60s and 70s for Michigan. A lot more 60s when you get into Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. And then still chilly in the west, so a lot of 30s and 40s for Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, parts of Montana anyway. At least the mountainous parts. You get out into the plains of Montana, you're in the 50s, but and then the desert Southwest, of course, a little bit on the warmer side. Getting into Saturday now, This is really kind of the main event for the snow in Colorado, northern Arizona, Utah, and the severe weather possibilities in eastern New Mexico, even parts of the Texas, Oklahoma panhandle into Colorado, maybe touching Kansas here. So very dynamic storm system, cutoff low, centered over the Four Corners for a couple of days this weekend. That severe weather, taking a closer look at that for eastern New Mexico into West Texas. I know the surface map had it a little further north here into Colorado. The Severe Storm Prediction Center is saying maybe not into Colorado. But anyway, this is the place to look. Eastern New Mexico, mostly far west Texas, a little bit of the Oklahoma panhandle for our severe threat on Saturday. Saturday's anomalous temperatures much below average Arizona, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico. Those are the Four Corner states. Below average too for, let's say, Clovis, 12 degrees below average. So some of that cooler air moving into West Texas as well. And again, with that severe weather possibilities, those highest temperatures look like this. Some 60s for West Texas into eastern New Mexico, 70s further south into Texas, even a few 80s for Austin, San Antonio, into Houston. And then we see more 70s, central northern plains. That's above average for this time of year for sure. Mid 70s and here in Iowa. Some 60s though when you get into the Dakotas, even back into Montana. Warming up for the Pacific Northwest now, but still cool for the Four Corners states, and warming up for the East Coast too. A little bit warmer here for Saturday. All right, let's go back and check out our GFS. I need to set it up here because we're on the upper. This is the GFS in the upper air, but let me switch it over to precipitation mode, and we'll do that right here. This is kind of like live on tape. All right, precipitation rate and type, and that'll get us our usual map here. And so we're starting current. So we already now are seeing snow around Yellowstone and into southern Montana, even parts of the Cascades of Oregon and Washington. And as we go through today, we see our storm, kind of getting its act together. Some very strong winds here with a forming cold front in Nevada with some snow and a little bit of rain with that, some snow behind that as well, and even some thunderstorms ahead of it in Utah and into New Mexico. This is tonight, so late tonight, moving into Friday now. We see our snowstorm getting going for parts of Utah and into Wyoming and the mountains near Durango, starting to see that snow already ahead of the front and the forming low. This would be Friday morning. So tomorrow morning, this low really getting its act together in the Four Corners. And so as we get into Friday afternoon, it's a mixture of some thunderstorms maybe for Arizona, back into Utah, some snow for the mountains, southwestern Colorado, but even now central Colorado, some snow on the backside of the low for places like Flagstaff perhaps. And the mountains around Flagstaff could end up with a decent amount of snow from this low as well. Here we get late Friday night, now moving into Saturday. We'll start to see our thunderstorms in eastern New Mexico ahead of the low, still snowing in southwestern Colorado. A little bit of lingering snow back here in Arizona. And then maybe a few showers up here in the plains. Now, what I forgot to show you, I meant to do this. So I'm going to back up to today because in the plains, that's the other part of our story. We see the winds blowing out of the south and southwest. And so it's very dry, it's very windy, and our high fire danger is here. This is today. So let me zoom back forward. I forgot to mention that yesterday, and I watched back and I caught it, and I was like, I've got to make sure I mention that today. All right, so we're back to Saturday. Still snowing in Colorado, northern New Mexico, Taos ski area, getting some snow here. Some thunderstorms maybe moving into the plains of Colorado. Certainly some thunderstorms and our severe weather threat for eastern New Mexico into West Texas. This is Saturday, and we see more strong storms late in the day Saturday. Wow. Fly means business. It's going to die after I'm done. All right, we do have those storms really getting going again. This is late Saturday now. The severe weather threat from Colorado into eastern New Mexico with that low. And that lingers. Again, this low is cut off from the jet stream this weekend before it finally gets kicked into the plains, as we showed you with the upper air pattern. So as we go through the day Sunday, we're finally starting to see some of this rain move into the plains, Kansas, into Nebraska. I know we have a slight chance of rain here Monday, and there it is. This is Monday. Moving into eastern Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma as well. And a little bit of light rain perhaps for western Iowa where I live, maybe into Des Moines, certainly southern Iowa. And then it gets kind of quiet. So as we get into Tuesday here, this is midnight Monday, moving into Tuesday, you see some of that cold air across northern Washington and along the Canadian border, but otherwise pretty quiet for a couple days. But then we're starting to see a little kink here in our flow and some of that cold air getting down into Minnesota. This would be Wednesday morning, some showers out ahead of that, moving through Michigan during the day Wednesday. We see a disturbance out here in the plains, so Oklahoma into Arkansas, parts of Texas, starting to see some showers bust out Wednesday into Thursday. And the cold air stays mostly into Canada. A little bit of a low here, some showers into southern Minnesota, into Wisconsin as we get into Friday. And so now we're starting to get into a week from this weekend, and pretty uneventful during the upcoming week. Another system moving into the Pacific Northwest a week from Saturday, and some snow with that. Then we'll watch this low here, moving along the Canadian border. Behind it, cold air dropping into the northern plains. This is Monday the 28th. And that cold air drops all the way into Nebraska and Iowa and clipping Kansas into Missouri. But this cold front will be further south, going all the way into Texas. Just the coldest air in the northern plains, the upper Midwest, with some snow for Wisconsin, Minnesota, into the UP of Michigan. And ahead of the cold front, showers and thunderstorms busting out. This is the time of the year where you can see some severe weather here. This is the 29th, so pretty far in the future, so we'll take it with a grain of salt. But this is what could happen, and we'll certainly watch for consistency in our model runs as we continue to update you in time, because that's what we'll do. All right, 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, still warm over much of the country. So what we just showed you a week from this weekend, that cold air coming into the northern plains, the Midwest, the Great Lakes, that's going to be the 30th, 29th and 30th, beyond this 6 to day outlook. So warm until it's not. That cool air in the Pacific Northwest. And then precipitation-wise, for the next, from the 22nd to the 26th, we do anticipate at least a little bit above average precipitation for the upper Midwest into the northern plains, back towards the West Coast, dry on the East Coast, and for New Mexico. So big storm coming for the Four Corners area. So, an early taste of winter, especially those southwestern mountains in Colorado could see a lot of snow. Northern Arizona could see decent snows in places. And our severe weather threat for eastern New Mexico, parts of southeastern Colorado this weekend as well. So we will keep you posted as we go. Tomorrow's Friday, so the storm will still be forming. It'll be coming into a little bit more focus, and we'll let you know how it's going on our next edition of the Weather Mike. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.